Something just came down the chute and it sounded big. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be reading a Reddit post. I have read all of this thread and I am completely hooked. The writer has actually left it on a massive cliffhanger. There has been 5 different stories in this one story, so I thought I would make it some sort of like a series for you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as what I have. But before I do get into that, this lovely jacket is the one that I got from Primark, and it was in my last video. And if you haven't watched that video, then please go back and watch that one. I will leave the link in the description below. I do think that I'm just going to get straight into this post. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as what I have. So without further ado, this Reddit story has been written by user DuckyLuck89 and it's called My Hotel Has a 13th Floor. So for those unfamiliar with how hotels work, it's generally 3 8-hour shifts. I work the overnight shift, the graveyard. I've been here for nearly 6 years now, and I will tell you the same things I tell all new hires. I've seen some shit, some weird shit. A good rule of thumb is when something weird happens, just keep your head down and leave it alone. This of course leads to each of us having different stories to tell. Now before you start thinking of a creepy old haunted hotel, I want to just dispel that. I work for one of the biggest names in the world, in a relatively new hotel. It's about 15 years old and it's not haunted. I suppose dumping one of the best stories first is the way to go, so the 13th floor it is. So, way back when I was training, 2 days to make sure you just understand how to click a few buttons, was the first time that I'd ever heard about it. You're going to want to make sure you stay off of the 13th floor, bro. My trainer, a guy in his 30s called Derek, who looked like he'd solely survived on energy drinks and coffee. I, of course, looked at him like he was the biggest idiot alive. I may not remember Jack from training, but I'll never forget the seriousness in that look. See, the thing is, my hotel has 3 floors, not counting the 13th. I brushed it off at the time as nonsense, not yet being experienced in the hotel's weirdness. Derek just shrugged it off and went about his explanation. Take the elevator, he said. The elevator never lands on the 13th floor. The stairs will though. Sometimes if you're going up, sometimes if you're going down. He finished, handed me a bundle of receipts. We offer an express checkout, where you slip a receipt under the door so you can bounce at your own convenience. Derek never brought up the 13th floor again or any of the other weird occurrences. It would have been nice for him to warn me about the vending machine at the end of the hall. In any case, after training, I never saw him again. I heard he moved to Alaska or somewhere. Since then, I've been completely on my own, 5 nights a week, except for when I get to train a new bird. They usually don't last that long though. I remember it was my first week alone when my first 13th floor incident occurred. Nothing dramatic or anything. I had heard the sound of rubbish metal, followed by a wet plop sound. I'd been messing around with a sketch at the front of the desk when this happened. I recognised the sound immediately as the laundry chute. Problem was, it was 3 in the morning, and housekeeping had locked the chute hours before I'd even arrived, 4 hours before me. Our front desk is connected to the laundry room, so with my curiosity aroused, I stepped around to where I could see the chute opening. Laying there, half pouring over the edge like a rolling ton, was a large towel covered in some brown stains. It could have been old blood, could have been crap, could have been a number of things. People are generally disgusting. It turned out it brought my eyes to the computer monitor that housed the camera feeds. 9 smaller screens embedded in the large one. Recording kicks in if it spots any movement, and I have to admit I was surprised when I saw nothing was being recorded. Now this time, like I said, almost 6 years ago, so I can't really remember for sure what I did, but knowing me I probably just ignored it. Not my job sort of attitude. I know it sounds dickish, but they don't pay me that much money. I do remember checking the back a few hours later, only to find the towel had vanished. Again, I kept myself to myself and I thought maybe my brain was adapting to night shifts and was messing with me. I don't drink energy drinks or coffee, so staying awake was a battle of sheer will back in those days. That was the first time that had happened. It has happened many, many times since then, and not always a towel. Oh no. It happens a few times a week. Some of my favourite items to come down have been a dog leash, eyeglasses, and to get this, a full chess set, one piece at a time. Those are a few of the interesting trinkets. Most of the time it's hotel stuff. Towels, blankets, pillows. Sometimes they have the brown stains, sometimes a bright red coat that most definitely is blood. They always disappear without a trace after a few hours of sitting there though. So that's the laundry chute, one of the few 13th floor events. Another is the camera system. We have 3 set up on each floor. Row 1 covers the floor, pool area and front desk. I can always look up and get a lovely reminder that my boss doesn't completely trust me with the $300 that is in the drawer. Row 2 shows, well, 2 and the stairwell. Row 3 shows the same for the 3rd floor. This is what is shown 99% of the time, but on the rare occasion all 9 switch to static for a second here to show a dark hallway lit by only faint lights at the end of each. Every door on this floor stands open wide. I've never been able to make out anything else due to the awful lighting and the even worse quality of the cameras. They switch back after exactly 2 seconds anyway. Another thing that happens much less often is a phone call. The ringer says it's coming from within the hotel, but the room ID says completely blank. I don't answer these anymore, but I did before. It's always the same old man apparently reading in room number 1302, which of course we do not have, croaking out that he can't get this weird guy off of the TV and asking if I could come fix it for him. He would then do a baby doll giggle and hang up. It was my 2nd year that I actually managed to land on the 13th floor, which is not nearly easy. That year I'd happened to be on a fitness kick and had opted to take the stairs instead of the elevator. I know what you're thinking, but Derek's warning had been 2 years prior and the weirdness of this hotel had become so routine that I honestly didn't even think about what he had said about the stairs. Not to mention that I'd been taking them for months without incident up until this point. I'd finished delivering receipts on the 3rd floor and began my descent. I arrived at the ground floor and pushed open the door to reveal a darkened hallway resembling the 2nd and 3rd floor. Except instead of our crappy floral pattern wallpaper, the walls were lined with newspaper. It was too dark and I was too confused to attempt to read what they had said. I turned around only to see that the door previously leading to the stairs now only mirrored the dark hallway. Nervously, I slowly took a step towards the centre where the elevator was located. I could hear a constant sound of wind rustling through the entire floor but felt nothing as I reached out to press the down arrow. It lit up after my input, but simultaneously I heard every door creaking open. I felt the wind now lick in my face as if I stood up atop of a skyscraper. I turned and glared into the room directly across the elevator, pressing my back into the cold metal door. Inside, I saw the windows was open, curtains that did not match the hotel's brand billowing in the strong wind by the glow of the TV. The man on the TV stared back at me, and I saw he was not a man at all, but rather a wooden puppet. His square jaw and lipless mouth seemed to have a permanent sinister smile fixed on it. His black eyes, lifeless, rolled to the left of its face to make up the angle of the television where he was at. His red, swirly hair, freckles, the suit he wore and the desk he was sat upon reminded me of a twisted, demented puppet version of Conan O'Brien. He darted his eyes to the bed in the centre of the room as if to say, "Hey, look at this," before returning his gaze to me and rapidly raising and lowering his wooden eyebrow on the bed. Under the blanket I could see a lump vaguely shaped like a human, and to make matters worse, it began to stir. Just as the thing in the bed sat upright, the blanket still covering it completely, the elevator pinged and I stumbled back into it. I flayed my hand to the button reading 1 and I pressed that at least 10 million times. Just as the elevator door was closing, I gave the puppet one more look. He shot me a wink, just as a huge humanoid silhouette stepped into the doorframe. I couldn't see anymore as the elevator had fully closed a nanosecond later and began a descent that took so much longer than it ever had. I fully expected it to open back up on the 13th floor, where that thing would grab me, but it didn't. I finally reached to the 1st floor, and it was the same 1st floor as it had always been. I've made it absolutely crucial that I take the elevator every single time I have to go upstairs now. That's the story of the 13th floor. We occasionally have guests disappear, their stuff still in their room when the checkout time comes. I think all of the employees know. we just don't talk about it, so it feels really, really good to get this off of my chest. I may be back to share some other weird things that go on here, but I'm going to go for now. Something just came down the chute and it sounded big. When I first read that, I was hooked. I was so happy that there was part 2. First off, I would be petrified to stay in that hotel and something come down the chute when it was supposed to be locked. Secondly, I would have probably just listened to Derek and not used the stairs at all, no matter how much of a health kick I was actually on. And thirdly, a puppet in the TV. That would just freak me out. Full on freak me out to the point where I would not go up them stairs again. So yeah, like I said, this is going to be a series, so please stick around for part 2. It gets so much more crazy and so much more interesting. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Leave any comments down below on anything that you would like me to read out or do. I hope you have a lovely evening or morning wherever you are, and from me, see you later.